Hello there! Let me start the video off by asking a question. If the Jedi are supposed to defend everyone, who defends the Jedi? In this video, that's going to be me. I want to defend Mace Windu.
For your own good, stay out of this affair.
Ever since the Clone Wars aired, he's been getting a lot of hate.
Well, allow me to retort.
Some of the criticism is fair enough, but some of it, I think isn't fair. And so, here we go. I will start off by admitting he is not flawless. He is not perfect, but no one really is. Everyone has their flaws, everyone has their problems, and I think Mace Windu is getting a bit of a harsh sentence from the fans at the moment. So first of all, one of the criticisms is that people are making him responsible for the fall of the Jedi. People are saying he is responsible for the fall of the Jedi. Now, I'm sure he contributes, like so many others, but can I tell you who contributes just a little bit more? Palpatine.
Are you threatening me?
Yeah, without Palpatine, the Jedi probably wouldn't have fallen. Who else? Anakin. If Anakin hadn't cut off Mace Windu's arm, well, I'll tell you what, Palpatine would have died, Order 66 wouldn't have happened, and the Jedi still exist. Okay? The Kaminoans, they were a bigger part than Mace Windu. You could argue that Qui-Gon Jinn was, because he basically finds Anakin. Even Obi-Wan, you could argue, has a bigger role to play, because he basically forces the Council to let him train Anakin. There is, yes, okay, Mace Windu, he's a bit hostile towards Anakin occasionally. He's a bit cold. But I don't think you can say he's responsible for the fall of the Jedi. He is a Jedi and he wants the Jedi to exist, unlike many of the people who are responsible for the fall of the Jedi. Another thing that I've heard people comment on or say is that Mace Windu is cold towards Anakin and doesn't trust him, and he does admit as much. He says that he doesn't trust Anakin, but in fairness, the Jedi are never called to trust people. Trusting people without any reason to trust them is stupid. In real world and in Star Wars, people have to earn trust, and it's just the same in Star Wars. And so, criticizing him for not trusting Anakin seems a bit hasty and a bit kind of short-sighted. Also, Anakin hasn't really proven himself. He's very naturally powerful in the Force, but we've seen in the comics that he's not particularly hard-working and doesn't develop his power as much as he could. And so I could defend Mace Windu, and I will defend Mace Windu, and say that one reason that he is so cold towards Anakin could be that it's almost a tough love type of thing. It's like, well, regardless of how naturally powerful you are, you will not gain respect until you actually kind of work at it, because he develops quite quickly, but he could develop more quickly. He's arrogant. Anakin is arrogant. He thinks that he's as good as Yoda is at lightsaber combat. In episode 2, when he's a Padawan, it's fair enough that Mace Windu is cold towards him, because he's basically trying to just make sure his ego doesn't get too big for him. And arrogance is probably not a great thing for the Jedi to have, as they're supposed to be selfless people. Another thing that people have said, is that the Jedi were supposed to be keepers of the peace, and yet they became warriors. Now, Mace Windu even says that in episode 2. He says, we are not soldiers, we are keepers of the peace, and yet he becomes a general. Well, how do we explain that? The Chancellor puts all the Jedi in a very difficult situation, because they cannot win. If they refuse to fight in the war, the Chancellor says, well, they're supposed to be defenders of the Republic, and yet they're sitting there while people suffer because of a war and they're not getting involved. If they get involved, the Chancellor says, well, they're supposed to be peacekeepers, and yet they're now soldiers. There is no way the Jedi can be portrayed in a good light during a galactic war. And so Mace Windu is just one of the other Jedi Generals. There's Anakin, there's Obi-Wan, Yoda gets involved. They're all Jedi Generals, and actually, Mace Windu doesn't look like he's particularly enjoying it. He's always quite serious, and when we see him in the Clone Wars be a Jedi General, he does rescue his own troops. he does care about their life. He isn't ruthless and cold and enjoying the art of war. He does care about the life of those people that he is supposed to be still protecting, which is what the Jedi do. He is no worse at being a general than any of the other Jedi generals. In fact, Anakin seems to enjoy war a lot more than Mace Windu does.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
Mace Windu is very concerned about finishing the war, making sure the war doesn't go on that long. He doesn't want war, but he is almost forced to be a general in it. We will take a kind of closer look into the critical point, the point where Mace Windu goes to confront the Chancellor with 3 of the Jedi, and well, we all know what happens. So people have said, okay, well, if they'd have invited Anakin along, then okay, Anakin wouldn't have turned to the dark side. They should have trusted him, or so we'll first focus on that. Okay, I don't think that's true. Anakin, when he protects the Chancellor in that scene, shouts something along the lines of, "I need him." That opinion isn't going to change whether Mace Windu invites him along or not. He still thinks he needs the Chancellor alive in order to save Padme. He wouldn't have allowed Mace Windu to kill the Chancellor. Now, okay, should Mace Windu have killed the Chancellor? That isn't a particularly Jedi thing to do. But if you look at the situation the Jedi are in, the Jedi are not popular, where the Chancellor is very popular. And so, if Mace Windu arrests the Chancellor for being a Sith,
It's treason.
well, there is no particular evidence. There's no one to, there's no kind of written piece of paper that, the Chancellor signed that says, yes, I am a Sith, guys. I was hiding it all this time. So the Chancellor can just say that the Jedi are trying to gain power. He's popular. The Jedi aren't, especially Mace Windu, not popular among the Senate.
I am the Senate.
And among the galaxy as a whole, really. So the Chancellor would just say the Jedi are lying, and they lose credibility and they fall a different way. So therefore, Mace Windu, you could argue, is saying, okay, well, I could be kicked out the order for this because I'm, committing murder. I should arrest him, but it's the only way forward for the Jedi, which immediately changes his almost selfish act in that scene to a very selfless act, because he's trying to protect the Jedi from having this bad reputation. The only way that he can see at that point in time to prevent the Sith from rising up is by killing them, even if they are basically at his mercy. Now, people have said that, okay, well, if he'd have invited Anakin along, then Anakin might have been able to help arrest the Chancellor. It still goes back to that same point. Anakin would have joined the Chancellor at this point. The Chancellor, or Sidious, has said that he is the only hope to save Padme. So Anakin at this point is too far gone. He will leave the Jedi to save Padme. And so, regardless of whether you invite Anakin at the start of the battle, or towards the end of the battle, or he just turns up out of his own accord, he still is going to join the Chancellor. And so it doesn't really matter that he wasn't invited in terms of the fall of the Jedi. In fact, it was probably a good move because Mace Windu can see how conflicted he is. Also, just a small point, Mace Windu has just watched this guy, the Chancellor, the Emperor, Sidious, kill 3 Jedi. 3 very, very, very experienced Jedi have just been slaughtered by this guy. So thinking, oh yeah, okay, let's just let him stand back up and walk him out, and we'll have him arrested, probably isn't the best idea. Mace Windu has seen what he is capable of. So in his head at this point, he's probably not thinking, okay, well, yeah, we'll just arrest him, give him a nice little comfy cell. He's just worried that that sort of thing could happen again to him or to someone else. He, at this point, is just trying to protect the galaxy from this very, very powerful Sith. At the end of the day, the Jedi of the Republic era, except Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, of course, were flawed. They had allowed doctrine and the rules to become more important than morality and compassion for them. They didn't value the well-being of the people as much as they valued sticking so strictly to some rules that didn't really make sense a lot of the time. And so, of course, Mace Windu was flawed.
Don't give me attitude, sir.
He was a product of this Jedi Order. You know, he was only a human, and so he will have only lived human length time, which compared to some of the Jedi is not very long. And so, when he was being raised as a youngling and a Padawan, this is what he will have been taught. He will have been taught that these rules were so important. And so, blaming him for the downfall of the Jedi seems ridiculous, because I would imagine, by the sounds of it, the High Republic era, which is 200 years before the prequel era, will start to show us where the Jedi lost their way. And so, basically, all of the Jedi have some responsibility, except Obi-Wan and Yoda. And the Jedi only really realised this after Order 66 had happened. And so, blaming Mace Windu for the downfall of the Jedi seems silly, because there were so many Jedi that contributed to it. So many Jedi that, again and again, put the rules above morality and compassion. And so, it wasn't just Mace Windu that pushed Anakin to the point where he didn't feel like he could tell anyone about him and Padme. Instead, it was the whole doctrine that the Jedi followed. And so Mace Windu is just a product of a flawed Jedi Order. Now, that's not to say that the Jedi Order were innately bad. It's just to say that they had warped ideals. And that's reflected by Mace Windu. Some of his ideals and ideas seem like a warped version of what a Jedi's ideals should be. Now, in Season 7 of The Clone Wars, The Siege of Mandalore, he's not particularly willing to listen to Ahsoka. He basically disregards her because she calls herself a citizen, and he basically doesn't care because she shouldn't be getting involved in Jedi matters when she is no longer a Jedi. Now, he is kind of right. She shouldn't be getting involved in Jedi matters if she's not a Jedi. But, of course, that's silly because she obviously has something important to say, and he dismisses it, almost because I think he probably is a little bit elitist towards the rest of the galaxy. And that is the one flaw in his character that I don't think the Jedi, even of the prequel era, encouraged within their rules. And so I can't really defend that. So there you go, Mace Windu, that's your one big flaw that I won't defend.
Whoa, stop right there.
But other than that, he's an okay guy. Thanks for watching. Remember to like the video, comment, tell me your feelings. Do you like Mace Windu? Do you not? Whatever your opinion is, please be nice in the comments. And remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Watch the recommended video for you. It's great. Bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Top-notch video recommended by YouTube themselves. Thanks for watching. Bye. You thought that you got rid of me, did you? Well, unfortunately, you haven't, because we've had a bit of Star Wars news regarding the High Republic era, which if you've followed some of the videos in the past, you know that I've been pretty excited about. Unfortunately, Star Wars has announced literally just now, as of recording the video, that it's all being postponed till next year. January 21st is the earliest release date now of the first book. So we're going to have to wait a bit longer for that, but it does mean you get a double outro. So remember to like the video if you haven't already, which you should have, because I asked you to do it just a moment ago. Subscribe to the channel, which you should have done. And comment, let me know your thoughts, feelings. And now you can tell me about the High Republic as well. Bye!